to start from the beginning of why this is today's topic, all of a sudden my Instagram algorithm switched entirely to 9/11 conspiracy videos. Like, I've always been marginally interested in it, but I didn't go searching all of a sudden one day in 2025 and be like, let me learn more of it. I didn't type it in anywhere. I didn't do anything. I didn't talk about it to anyone. It's been years since I've even like gone in a rabbit hole about it. But all of a sudden Instagram was like, this is what you're going to be obsessed with now. So that's kind of those are the rabbit holes I've been going down, is all 9/11 conspiracy.
So what are some of the things that you maybe learned that you never heard of before?
Well, I think, well, some of the things, I mean, I know all the ones, the kind of the easy ones, I think, are like,
Are
jet
they
fuel doesn't
mainstream?
melt.
Would you consider them mainstream?
Mainstream conspiracies, sure. I mean, in my demographic, I guess, jet fuel can't melt steel beams is kind of the top one on the list, right? And then I think another pretty common one is that it wasn't a plane that hit the Pentagon. It was a missile. The controlled demolition, Building 7. I think these are all kind of relatively mainstream if you've done any sort of shallow dive into 9/11. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, I mean, just like random shit like the passport that somebody found on
The
the
passport.
side of the road, and like a wheel from the plane.
I think they found 6 passports of hijackers,
It's just a coincidence.
but there's no concrete left from the buildings. It's all dust.
Yeah, I mean, there's. I mean, I'm. Yeah, go ahead.
And
Have maybe some random thoughts as well, but
I will no you well I should also say I wanted to talk about this because you were kind of one of my first conspiracy friends way back in the day, and you've probably taken a break from getting too deep into stuff too, because you can get lost easily, and I can too. Everybody can. But
yeah. I mean, a lot of things are just fake and gay.
we should.
No, I'm just kidding. But I think my mind typically goes into possibilities.
Yes.
And as a detective would do, he throws everything out onto the table, all evidence possible, in order to, rummage across it and find the clues of the links from this to that,
Yeah.
And so I never go conspiracy and stay there.
Sure.
I always I want to have the ability to link, or potentially link things together to make my own rational thoughts about a subject.
Sure.
Versus being fed just one thing and have to just say, yes, that's it.
Oh yeah, no. I think one thing I really enjoy about conspiracies is that they're abstract. It's not a given answer, because we are drawing conclusions and making assumptions and using evidence that we deem as worthy to kind of form a different narrative than what we're being fed. So it is like an amoeba kind of. It changes what it is as you learn new things and as you make new connections. And then also, I'd like to think about the detective throwing things out all over the table, but then it's always a good idea when you're trying to do any investigation is to look at the most likely scenarios, right? And that's where a lot of my logic gets broken in this specific one, is what has passed, and what is the past, and what has evidence shown us. And then also, like any crime, which it is a crime, we have to consider everyone with motives. We have to consider everyone with the evidence that they've left behind, and then the bigger picture also. So yeah, I mean, the political side of it is something that I kind of left out from my research and my notes, kind of the Saudi Arabian connections and, CIA money and stuff like that, because that's a kind of a separate thing from kind of the mechanical and the technical side of it. That is just, I guess it kind of just, it lights my light bulb a little bit more easily than the deep state stuff and things like that. Cause I know that's real. I know that exists. But I kind of left it out of this one.
Yeah. You're more interested in the actual true engineering of it versus the political engineering.
Yes, because that's so shadowy and so shady, and also it's almost a guarantee that it's happening. The fun of it isn't. I like the evidence, and I like saying, why aren't they saying this? Why aren't they? Why is nobody saying no, that didn't happen? Because here is the scientific proof of it not happening. I need something provable.
It's more physics.
I need something provable.
Yeah. So that's some of the research or some of the things that you probably went down the rabbit hole on this lately, huh?
Yeah. Well, I want to start with the first one. So, like I said before, the overarching one, the big main one was the jet fuel can't melt steel beams, and that's that was a pretty common like hashtag or whatever we had back then. It was like the title of every conspiracy forum ever. Forums, kids, look it up, Google it. Forums, they used to be a thing. I was on them. Tom, I know you were on them. Tom was like original Reddit dude. He was like back before everybody knew about Reddit. You and Grant were both big into Reddit back then, which I commend. But jet fuel that can't melt steel beams is just the basics of it is that jet fuel doesn't get hot enough to structurally diminish the strength of the building until it collapses. So the NIST report, I'll kind of just jump into like the main source material is something called the NIST report, which was kind of the scientific book that the 9/11 report was based on. So the 9/11 report is this giant, all-encompassing, huge, Senate committee investigational report on what happened. The NIST report is the actual structural engineering diagnosis of what caused the towers to collapse. Essentially, that's kind of what its goal was to investigate that more heavily. National Institute of Standards and Technology, I'm pretty sure is what NIST stands for. And they're sort of a government organization. It is an institute. It's like they're learning about stuff there. But they are, a government affiliated organization. So, draw conclusions there where you may lie. Whose interests are they serving? They're not serving science's interests, right? They're serving the government's interests, and they want to, now looking back, paint a very specific picture of what happened.
It seems like that.
It's tough. It lends itself to conspiracy also because it's more about what they didn't say than what they did say. So there's a lot of conclusions to be drawn with the report because it leaves out some just key physics and materials engineering questions that are still open.
Their motto is everything you use in your everyday life works because of measurements.
Okay. I mean, yeah, sure. Measurements are super. I'm a dork about measurements. I got a lot of rulers, calipers, micrometers. I love measuring shit.
Yeah, that's the only way to actually truly get to the bottom of any investigation is to have some sort of benchmarks and measurement ways to measure those things. So go on. Yeah, sorry.
I love it. I could talk about measurements. I could be a whole nother podcast.
Okay, we'll get there.
But so yeah, the NIST report is basically the science side of the 9/11 report that people know more readily. They readily know that the 9/11 report a little bit more. But the NIST report has been shown to leave out just a ton of very well established rules about physics and materials technology that aren't explained, and they fall back on them, like the melting point of steel, and the fatigue points of steel, and how hot a fire can actually get when you're burning jet fuel, and an office, basically like an office, and how hot that can get. The first theory that I wanted to get into was, I just have it titled molten metal. So have you heard about it? Have you? Yeah, I'm sure you have. I lost your audio.
This is a good one. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, yeah. Sorry for just rambling, but like I said, I've been consumed.
Dude, you're fine. I mean, the thing is that these NIST guys, it seems like you can't measure you can't find what you don't measure. And if they're like the kings of actually dealing with the scientific approach to it, it's like all you have to do is just not include it for measurement, and then all of a sudden you create a bias one way or the other.
Yes, and that is kind of you're right. How it was approached was that because they didn't have a measurement for something, they didn't acknowledge the well-known just physical science of these situations. So because the government was relying on them to provide verdicts, and they said, well, we just don't have anything about steel melting, or we don't know anything about that. The fire made it collapse. It just leaves a lot of room for interpretation. So molten metal. So there are two different kind of states of heating metal. You can heat it to fatigue, right? You can heat it to where it bends and even breaks. But when you take it beyond that, and I apologize, I should have numbers, but fuck numbers. I don't need numbers. There is a point where it turns into molten metal. So that means liquefies it. And there are many reports and eyewitness accounts of molten metal. There's video of molten metal. It's not like, this is 2001 we're talking about here. So you can watch the videos. They exist. They're not photoshopped. We didn't have that technology back then. These videos have existed for years and years. But what you're seeing is molten metal pour out of the side of the building before it collapses, and then finding pockets of molten metal while they're going through the rubble. Now, what NIST said was that it got hot enough to fatigue the steel beams to a point where they failed and the building collapsed. They don't even mention the fact that or at least a factor of at least 1,000 degrees hotter. I'm not sure. I should have numbers, but I don't. Is the point where it needs to get to be molten. So explain that. That's all we're asking, right? Is can you explain where the molten metal is from? Because that lends itself to something a little bit more purposeful. Because there's only one way a material that could get into a building that burns that hot. I mean, this is all controlled stuff like thermite and phosphorus and things like that are capable of getting to those temperatures, and people aren't just walking around with those aren't materials that are in a building. This like controlled demolition style of stuff that's made to cut metal.
So steel, for it to melt, it needs to get to 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit to 2,750 degrees Fahrenheit.
For it to like liquefy?
For it to liquefy. So
I wonder what the NIST report says on the estimated temperatures inside the fire.
I don't either. That's how
Well, we're not going to solve
one.
it today, right?
We're not solving anything.
Yeah.
But on a side note of the melted or the melted molten metal,
Steel, yeah.
I would say that there was also like filming of cars and stuff at the bottom, that were like completely melted as well. So it didn't seem like it was only pertaining to the building itself. Like there was also just, well, again, those aren't maybe made out of steel.
Yeah,
Unless
but
they're really
probably. I
old
mean,
cars.
yeah, most cars in 2001 were steel, plastic,
Maybe
steel, plastic.
aluminum.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they could be parts of them be aluminum for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
What's next? What else is ticking your boxes?
so this next one is really the most intriguing for me. Maybe I should save it for last.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to do that. So the next one isn't the most intriguing to me, but it is very intriguing at the same time. Is the debris field of Flight 93. So when a plane crashes into the ground, that's everybody's worst day, right? I don't want to, we are going to be doing some laughing and smiling through this, but obviously it was a very scary day. I remember it. Everyone was shocked, appalled. It was the worst time in our nation's history as far as I can think back. Obviously that's a subjective claim, but it was horrible. When that plane hits the ground, that is where the debris is. It might fly a little bit, it could, the plane could explode, but it's limited. Usually I'm imagining, 300 yards maybe at the most. They're talking about searching an area. I believe what I read was 3 to 4 square miles of to just do cleanup. There were no. I think they were very careful about allowing like any photography or photos or any press in this gigantic area. So there's not a lot of actual image of this large search area, but there are images of a crash that happened, and people, even there was a crater there. There's some spotty reports. I tried to do some more searching of witnesses that saw them take a shipping container out to the field before and like blow it up or burn it down or something like that to kind of like create the look of a plane crash. But those are pretty unsubstantiated, but they did exist back then, those claims.
So if it's a radius of 3 miles, does that say something about it? Maybe not, like you're saying, it's not a crash. It's something that happened in the sky, or
yeah, correct. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. No, I'm just sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm getting ahead of you.
No, but you know this already. But yeah, the idea of
I mean, it was a long time ago.
Sure. But Flight 93 being shot down instead of being crashed. So if something were to happen above the ground level, if it were to come apart for any reason, whether it was shot down or not, but if it was to come apart higher up in altitude, that would create the debris field to be larger. It would cause the debris field to be larger. And it's interesting because the report that I read, it wasn't really a report. I should say it was a conspiracy that I read on the internet. So take it for what it's worth. But the write-up that I read explained that plane could very possibly have been hijacked, and they could have been trying to get it to crash into the White House, which was the original, or the Capitol building. I forget exactly, but that was kind of the rumor back then. And then the people fought back and caused the plane to crash.
Oh, this is the one they made a movie about?
Yeah, Flight 93. Yep. But it could have gotten to the point where it was hijacked, they were going to fly it, and we get fighter jets in the air, and we have to make a decision, a very difficult decision, to shoot down a plane with American people and other nationalities too, but innocent people on it. And that's the cover up, right? Is that, okay, let's make it look like it crashed into the ground instead of us having to shoot it down, and let's paint a picture of these very courageous people on the plane to help garner some more patriotism and public support for what we're going to have to do next, which is start 20 years of war in the Middle East. That's the basic gist of it, is that, yeah, we shot it down and we covered it up.
Yeah, both these two stories remind me of a couple things. So over the course of however many years, there's been some other stuff too, like theories about I think like a harp or like a actual laser, a high powered laser that was able to disintegrate the building, which maybe ties into
that's wild,
the melting metal.
Yeah, sure.
That's something, I mean, I'd have to pull up, random fucking sources for, but that was another one.
I mean, that would be crazy, like a space laser that cut
like a space laser,
cut the building down piece by piece until it collapsed.
Yeah, it just basically melted it.
Yeah.
The other one was the fact that underground there was over like $500 million worth of, at the time, $500 million worth of gold and silver in the vaults.
Oh wow.
Have you heard that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so like inside and that was lost,
Yeah.
I'd have to pull up how many ounces. We could do the math and see how much that's worth today.
I mean, and the logistics of getting, I mean, if it's thousands and thousands of pounds of gold and silver, how'd they get it out of there?
Well, you remember the whole site was shut down, and nobody could go there except for the emergency crews for however many, and they had like bulldozers and they had excavation going on for months, and actually it was years. I remember.
Sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
So this and that was in an actual vault. So potentially that might not have melted while everything else around it did, or maybe the front door just opened up for them.
Yeah, and something also money related. I don't. Maybe you've heard this one too. That the day before 9/11, September 10th, there was a press release from Dick Cheney, I believe, that admitted to the Pentagon having misplaced trillions of dollars. And I don't know how true this next part is. That definitely happened. There's evidence of press release. And then September 11th,
they miss their audits like every year though.
Yes, they do. I think this was for some reason a little bit different than just that. But then also the unconfirmed part is just that the plane or whatever hit the Pentagon hit the exact spot where these records would have existed if they were ever to be able to do an investigation on that specific event.
Missing money.
Yeah. So they didn't even have a way to like look into it anymore. And that's, hey, that would be nuts. Like, hey, while we're doing all this other crazy shit, why don't we just shoot a rocket or a fucking cruise missile at the
specific room?
Yeah, the room where the records are stored. And it's terrible because people died and shit. But man, it just makes
going
me
back
laugh.
to the gold train of thought is the fact that like recently, let's just say there's that whole push for we got to audit Fort Knox, and then they were like with like Elon and Trump, and they were going to audit Fort Knox, but like they still haven't, and they're not going to. But they even were like, oh, we should live stream it. But like I can imagine, not imagine, but there's missing amounts of gold all over the place. And I bet you part of, what was going on, and there's like pictures and stuff from Iraq and, Afghanistan and these places where they were pulling gold bars out of out of palaces, and what were they actually doing there? Maybe there's like a separate conspiracy on the gold, the missing gold from the Federal Reserve, the Fort Knox, and our government actually trying to bring that gold home.
Yeah, there's a great movie about it called Three Kings, which is kind of more
Oh
just an
yeah,
action movie, but it
that's true.
it is based on soldiers stealing gold from Iraq in the first Gulf War.
Yeah, and not only did Saddam have it, but like that whole region is full of like Mesopotamian gold and
Artifacts
Egypt.
and
Yeah, like
ancient, yeah, like religious reliquaries and stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So Flight 93, obviously, horrible tragedy. If we did shoot it down, I imagine we'd never hear about it ever again. Like that's never going to be able to come out. There's not a memo that went out about that. That was a sort of a game time decision, I would imagine. I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
It's going to continue to fly under the radar, if you know what I mean.
So yeah, the last one, the one that I enjoyed reading about the most, is all kind of morbid, but I'll stop mentioning that. Is the Twin Towers being destroyed, demolished, for the cost of asbestos abatement, to avoid the cost of asbestos abatement. So the World Trade Center had kind of been under investigation and under like slow renovation to abate asbestos for a long time. These buildings were built in the 70s. I mean, I think in like the late 80s, early 90s is when kind of asbestos kind of started to become well known for causing cancer. But these buildings, these giant buildings, had already been built. So slowly over time, they would renovate individual offices and be forced to remove the asbestos. However, kind of the clock was ticking on needing to really just remove all of the asbestos from these buildings, which would, I believe, have been quoted in the billions of dollars in order to, I think the number's right around $1 billion to abate the asbestos from both towers, which obviously was a huge amount of money today, and it was a huge amount of money back then, even more so. So that obviously ties into kind of the insurance fraud kind of aspect of it as well, where they were incentivized to, instead of dismantle these buildings at a huge exorbitant cost, dismantling these giant buildings wasn't ever, there's no precedent for that. Downtown Manhattan, tearing buildings down that are 40, 50 years old, it wasn't feasible. It would have cost too much. That was really the only option, though, because you can't demolish them, right? You can't legally implode them. It would have released a bunch of this asbestos and chemicals, so that wasn't an option. You can't demolish them legally. So what's the other way around it is you create a government conspiracy in order to fund terrorists in Saudi Arabia and provide them with resources enough to create a master plan to fly planes into them. Now that wouldn't have brought them down, as we've already established, on its own. So there is another layer to it, that there was a demolition, but it was made under the guise of a terrorist attack, and
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
really the
so
motive. It's
sorry.
just sorry, no, it's no problem. It's just a conspiracy about motive. Like, why do we want to do this?
I mean, that goes to show, or what goes to show for that exact point would be all of the emergency, like, you can't deny the fact that there was evidence of some really bad chemicals that were in that building because everybody that worked on that site got sick.
Yeah,
The other thing is the perfect disintegration into the basement of it, where like the free fall ness of the whatever the video of it, you can see it kind of perfectly coming down together
The
in like
speed
the
of
most
it.
in the most like compact way possible.
Yeah.
Which, you know, also goes to show that it would be on the side of a systematic collapse of like engineered proportion.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you look at a video of a building being demolished in a controlled manner, it looks a lot like the footage of 9/11.
And it almost, some of them look worse than this, and they're smaller
Yes.
buildings.
Yeah.
And like they're like leaning over, doing this and doing that.
And those are the ones
this
they
one
try
was,
and do the right way, and they can't even do it that well. And then, I mean, the craziest one is the Building 7 footage. I mean, that is it's not a good look. I can tell you. I mean, it just drops. It just falls perfectly down straight into the ground, like a textbook.
over the shoulder of a news reporter too.
Yeah. There's a few different angles. Yeah. But yeah, the Building 7 thing's really, really strange.
What was in that building again?
Diesel tanks in the basement. Remember, that's
No,
what they said.
What did they have? What were the offices
There were
for in that?
DEA, FBI, CIA buildings, offices like that. So if you wanted to rewrite some of your history,
It's like Library of Alexandria.
yeah, you could. Yeah, you could burn it to the ground and then hide all of your secrets, basically, if you wanted to.
Yeah, or move them out in a move them out to a controlled site and ahead of time if you knew something was going to happen.
Yes, but then always fall back on the fact that we don't know, they were gone, they lost, they were in Building 7, we don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's where AI comes in, and
we're
gonna find those documents.
Give us the secrets, AI.